Welcome to the auditory counterattack. Welcome to the front lines of the RazörForce offensive. I am your intrepid host, Razorfist, alongside the full metal jacket general himself, Tactical Hobo. How have you been all week, buddy? You been following any news? Anything occur? Anything of note, you think?
As usual, it just keeps surpassing the week before it, pretty much, right?
So, last week, of course, the news story du jour would be the Trump trial, or as I called it, the mistrial. Well, it turns out it might actually be a literal mistrial. This is interesting because, dude, this is an ongoing thing, so we're hearing developments pretty much on the microsecond. Walk us through this. Guy makes a post on social media. It's now to the point where actual intelligence agencies are weighing in on this, rather, which is not suspicious at all. This person claiming to be the cousin of one of the jurors. It comes out almost immediately they're a troll. Dude, walk us through this real quick, because I think One American News, somebody, it's been covered extensively, but walk us through exactly what happened here, because this was absolutely wild. Not unexpected in the slightest, and maybe a little bit of a distraction, but we'll talk about that later. Read through
definitely.
this. Tell us what happened, bro.
Yeah, let's look here. Trump conviction could be declared a mistrial after judges alerted to post regarding possible juror breach of confidentiality. Judge Juan Merchan, who presided over Donald Trump's
Judge Juan Merchan of Venice.
from Colombia.
Yes.
Perfect for since we're turning into a banana republic, it's perfect.
Oh,
fitting.
indeed. Cocaine country. Let's hear it. By the way, I loved this. I was listening to Michael Savage the other day, and he was talking about how of like 190 law schools in the country, or no, it was like 120 law schools. His law school was ranked like 116. Like, this guy, and yet he was handpicked to preside over the mistrial of the century. That's curious. And the only other previous case of note for Judge Merchan of Venice is equally politicized. I'm blanking on exactly what the case was, but he pretty much just gets pulled out of mothballs, this eminently disqualified figure, just to weigh in on cases of particular political note to the American left. But sorry, I interrupted you. Walk us through exactly what happened here, because now there's serious talk of a mistrial as a result of this.
Yes, Juan Merchan, who presided over Donald Trump's so-called hush money trial, expressed worry in a letter on Friday regarding a social media comment uploaded to Meta, Facebook, by someone claiming to be a juror's cousin. It's been 1 week since the former president was found guilty on 34 criminal counts by a 12-member jury. Mm-hmm. Judge Juan Merchan just notified all parties involved in President Trump's recent NYC trial that the court became aware today of a Facebook comment that was posted on the Facebook page of the Unified Court System that said, "My cousin is a juror," and says Trump is... thing cut off.
Yeah. Today. It says Trump is going to prison, I believe, is what the original comment actually said. It's funny because when this came out, I pointed out that this sounded eerily familiar. Dude, in an Arizona context, what does this sound like?
Oh, man, it sounds a lot like the recent governor election.
It sounds like that, but even before that, bro. Think...
Arpaio?
Yes, it sounds a ton like the judge. For those who don't know and didn't watch my video, Arpaio and the Pardon, when Joe Arpaio's case was going forward about so-called illegal immigrant discrimination practices or racist discrimination practices, Judge G. Murray Snow, it came out that his wife was involved in like anti-Arpaio and anti-Republican activism, which is interesting considering G. Murray Snow was appointed by Bush. Not that that should surprise any of us. So it came out that she had been making posts on her social media pages on Facebook and whatnot that were explicitly anti-Arpaio. She even helped fund and organize an anti-Arpaio demonstration at the courthouse that her husband was presiding over. She didn't attend in person, but she organized it. And when Arpaio's lawyers pointed this out, he refused to recuse himself. This sounds a ton like that, doesn't it, bro?
Yeah, it does now that you mention it. Did you see By the way, did you see Trump got Arpaio up on stage the other night?
Yes! Yes!
He called him up.
Arpaio actually replied when I pointed that out. Arpaio replied to my tweet and pointed out, yes, you're absolutely right. And then he listed off a bunch of other stuff. I actually should have popped that up because it was interesting. He added even more information to the snow job that happened to him. That guy, his pardon was so justified. The only reason I was a little hesitant on it was because I think in terms of political calculus, it made him less viable going forward because it seemed like he was just a thrall of Trump. He deserved the pardon. He never should have been convicted. He was convicted, of course. The problem with Joe Arpaio, the former sheriff of Maricopa County, his conviction was that it was contempt of court, and yet the contempt charge was not justified, right? He was basically charged of contempt of court. It was ridiculous. They found that he wasn't guilty of something, but he kept doing the thing anyway, right? It was like discrimination practices that he wasn't doing to begin with. But because he kept doing the immigration sweeps, that was evidence that he was in contempt of court, even though the prosecution couldn't prove that those immigration sweeps were discriminatory, right? It was a total catch-22. It was just intended to lay down a ruling that would make him look bad a few weeks before his election. And it worked. We wound up with Soros's puppet sheriff, Paul Penzone, of course, as a result. But
right.
This is just
and
wild. So the mistrial talk, exactly. Where does this pop up?
Let's see. Today, the court became aware of a comment that was posted on the Unified Court Systems. Oh, I already read that part. Let's see.
Someone on the Rumble chat is asking, is Joe Arpaio the birther guy? Not really. He hired an independent firm, one of whom was an Obama voter and one of whom was not an Obama voter. And they were independent document examiners. And that's actually an interesting, dude, one day we should do like a breakdown of that, because that was a wild press conference. He busted out that press conference, and it basically showed that several of the lines on the publicly released birth certificate from Barack Obama were straight up photoshopped line for line. Like they copied them over, and you could clearly see where it had happened because the signatures were exact and the letters were exact, and it had just clearly been transferred from one document to another from the birth certificate of a woman who lives currently in Hawaii, like just a random civilian. They didn't release the person's name, but they basically took a valid Hawaii birth certificate and photoshopped all of the information from her birth certificate over to Obama's, is essentially what happened. That's a crazy, like, seriously, you guys should go check that out. I feel like because in that election cycle, everyone was focusing on Hillary versus Trump, that bit of news kind of skated by and nobody really talked about it. You remember? Like, it just kind of, I don't know. It was like a fart in the wind.
I remember seeing that. I remember Arpaio posting a picture of that. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was wild, but I don't know. So what's the mistrial talk, bro?
Oh, about the Trump here? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so according to Merchan, the statement was made in response to a post that was made on the court system's public Facebook page on May 29th. Merchan claims that the platform has classified it as 1 week old, so it's somewhat unclear what day the comment was posted. The comment was regarding oral arguments in the 4th Department of the Appellate Division unrelated to this proceeding. Merchan continued.
Yeah.
The New York State Unified Court System's initial Facebook post was no longer visible, but Anderson had left comparable remarks on earlier posts, most notably one from May 20th at 9:01 a.m., in which he repeated his claim to be the juror's cousin. Thank you for all your hard against the MAGA crazies. My cousin is a juror on Trump's criminal case, and they're going to convict him tomorrow, according to her. Thank you, New York courts, Anderson wrote, according to a screenshot captured by investigative journalist Jacqueline Smith of The Guardian and Politico. The comment was posted under a New York court system post.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, it was a mistrial. It's just a question of whether or not we're going to actually declare it one, is kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah, of course. That's the thing. And
the wild thing, this is just, I mean, a lot of people have pointed out this is not a wildly original theorem, but the idea here is so that it's not intended to hold up. It's intended to be an optical and strategic measure that allows the left to call him a convicted felon during election season, right? Which is kind of weird because technically he's not a convicted felon, right? You're not convicted of anything until the judge actually hands down their judgment. And that won't happen until sentencing, right? That's not, so technically he's not a convicted felon, but they're still going to call him that. It's not, that's what I'm saying. This is, show trial is almost not a descriptive enough term. It's an optics trial is really what it is in a lot of ways. I don't know. You've heard about a suspended sentence. Maybe we'll suspend the judge from a rope. But anyway, so let's go ahead and what? Spicy. We'll go ahead and get to, we actually asked the audience for questions on the Twatters a couple of days ago. Sorry about the lateness of this RazörForce offensive, but we had a stream yesterday. We wanted to do it sometime this weekend, but fortunately, we get to talk about stuff that has occurred in the interim. All right, let's go ahead and start with Matt C. At Red Label 215, and he asks, is Tim Pool right about Christians not voting and being black-pilled because of New Jersey electing a dead man in office? I actually hadn't heard of that. Well, I'm kind of dimly aware of it. Did you hear about this?
New Jersey elected a dead man?
I guess. I don't know. Answers to the name of Biden. Me personally, I think he's just back on his bullshit, is what he says. I guess I have two problems with that. Who's the dead man? And second, since when is New Jersey a noted bastion of American Christian conservatism? Right. This is like the state where you need a written note from teacher to be able to own your own, firearms property and such. Like, I don't know. I've never really considered New Jersey to be a bastion of Christianity. But had you heard anything about this? And what do you think of that theorem?
Well, he's saying that Christians aren't going to vote because New Jersey did something stupid. I mean, there's all sorts of dumb shit that happens all the time, right? So,
yep.
I think Christians are probably, a lot of Christians I know are more energized than ever right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
A lot of Christians are seeing a lot of, hints of revelations in some of the stuff that's going on now. So.
Not hard when you don't even really have to look that hard. Joseph Smith, not the cult leader, that great guy on Twitter says, why is it that even the, quote, rural conservative schools are having such huge issues with a gay agenda being pushed there? Context being that I graduated a half decade ago, and my rural Texas school had an almost 40% LGBT population, with almost every teacher supporting it. This is interesting because it's kind of germane to this past week, because I think it was earlier in the week that Trump said basically we need to get rid of the Department of Education.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is a fair statement. I mean, leave it to the states. Honestly, the states are doing a bad job as it is. Probably should mention for the record, there's people in my immediate family who were teachers for decades upon decades, and some still work in education and whatnot, and have seen firsthand just how corrupt and terrible and mismanaged these school districts are. I told a story on Razor Fist Arcade last night about, there's a district out here, it's an elementary school district, and they have a board, and the board is technically a distinct entity from the district itself. Anyway, so they elected, of course nobody pays attention to these elections, but they elected a woman who thinks she is a cat to a position of prominence on this board. So, of course, in short order, she was looking for woke nonsense to push in the school district. And what she landed on was they have a student teacher program, which is just, teachers in training, people who, it's essentially an internship. And they get them from two major universities, both of which are Christian. I forget what the other one was, but the big one is Grand Canyon University. And this cat girl decided that it's discriminatory toward gay people and toward the LGBT community for them to have a student teacher program with these two colleges. And the district, not wanting always an opportunity to virtue signal, went ahead and buckled under, basically. Well, GCU and the other university, whatever it is, they lawyered up. And they sued the district for religious discrimination, and they won. They had to pay out. And here's the best part of it all. Here's the kicker. All right? The actual fee goes to the board because they're a legally distinct entity from the district. So the district doesn't pay that out. The wokesters on the board have to pay the bill.
Nice.
Gang, all you have to do is fight back just a little. Just by not ceding ground. You can win. It's hilarious. And it's not a small legal bill. It was like $800,000 or something. Just an insane quantity of cash. But yeah. Let's see here. What else? Oh, Bryant Barth. What's better, the Fountainhead or Atlas Shrugged? I go Fountainhead. I don't know if you've read any Ayn Rand, but I go Fountainhead. It's a better story, I think.
Unfortunately, I haven't read much of her.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. We probably have some super chats, I would imagine, and I definitely want to get to those. Don't worry if we don't get to them, because, you know, we have to keep the flow going here. If we don't get to any of them, we will, of course, be reading the remainder on Razor Fist Arcade or maybe on the next offensive, but they stay here. We still have access to them. You don't have to worry about that. Debonair Nerd, apologies, long time no donation. Given your heartfelt commiserations to Rocksteady, can you indulge us with a similar sentiment for the Acolyte? Man, I gotta be honest, my indifference could be weaponized with regard to the Acolyte. I don't care. Star Wars is a dead franchise walking. I can't even muster indignation in their general direction. Am I the only person who has difficulty even caring? Hobo?
I don't think so. No, I haven't watched most of the new Star Wars stuff at all, to be honest. I don't have Disney Plus, and I don't care to pay for it, so, you know.
Yeah. Look, I think they caught on to the outrage marketing thing. I think that's why they're suddenly making a bunch of statements about what was the big press release last week. It'll be the gayest it'll have the gayest Star Wars characters ever, which I guess they missed out on C-3PO. What the hell? But I think that's intended to re-engage a lot of the channels on YouTube that normally cover all the drama around Star Wars. Even they are starting to move on from Star Wars. Because why would you talk about it? Nobody watches it. Nobody cares. And the numbers on that kind of content are, I would assume, are going down. You guys know I don't generally weigh in on every aberrant twinge of franchise drama. That's not really what my channel's ever been about. I just kind of do what I want. But yeah, I think that's what that is. I think you can interpret that as, oh crap, even the outrage channels are kind of not covering the stuff, which is bad because then people don't know about the show. And
right,
dude, they spent an Olympian sum on that show. I forget what it is per episode, but it was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times what Game of Thrones was spending per episode, which is at that time was the most expensive TV show ever made.
On the Acolyte, they spent tons of money on that.
The Acolyte, yes.
The one that no one's watching or whatever. I think you're the one actually that said the opposite of love is not hatred, it's indifference, right?
Yes.
And that's a perfect example right here, actually.
Oh, dude, we have absolutely arrived at the opposite of love. Cesario says, what's this I hear about Hunter Biden's gun trial affecting gun laws and regulations, especially ATF Form 4473? I mean, that's an angle, but I personally think it has more to do with they're looking at something where you can have a plausible argument that he's innocent, rather than charging Hunter Biden with the crimes that we have photographic evidence that he's committed. Molestation, right? Drug trafficking. He's done all kinds of stuff, right? What happened to all the underage Chinese hookers that he was hooking up with? You know, why isn't there a trial about that? I'll tell you why, because there's no plausible argument in defense of that. So they'll get him on this technical kind of gun form. You can't own a gun while you're on drugs, and maybe as a fringe benefit we get more restrictive firearm laws. You're a big firearm guy. How did you read this whole thing, like, tactically? You're the tactical hobo after all.
Yeah, that seems like a good read, because the only thing he's getting charged with is a gun violation, right? And of course, conservatives, we like our guns, and, you know, libertarians and Republicans, right? We all like our guns. So, of course, they're only going after that thing. So then they're trying to get people to actually defend Hunter Biden, I think. It's crazy. I mean, and nothing's going to happen to this guy except maybe a slap on the wrist at the most. Mm-hmm. I mean, we know what's going to happen. Nothing serious.
Yep. Let's see here. A poor horse abused by Chank. Can America even survive 16 years of Obama? Well, How many years into the Obama regime are we now? Exactly. I don't. Yeah. We're at year 12 right now. So, Gabriel, I got Ghost of the Badlands. Jesus Christ, that's the best comic I've read in a long time. Well done, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Those have been shipping since April. There's a smaller, like, mass market version that's available at Barnes & Noble, but the version on Indiegogo is not available anywhere. If you missed out on that, you done missed out. But fortunately, we did, as we announced before the Indiegogo even went live, there's a mass market version that's available on Amazon, whatever, and I'm really, really gratified to see that people seem to be enjoying it. So if you like spooky Western stuff, go check it out. The Major Spike 9000, did you hear that the McCloskeys, the couple from St. Louis, had their convictions expunged? Is that the couple that walked out on their front lawn during the Summer of Love with the semi-automatic rifles?
Yes, the boomer couple with the guy holding his AR-15.
Yes!
Cannon style, right? Just from the hip. And then that his wife holding, what, PPK or something? Like,
dude! That's not even the best part. Are you ready for this? Now Mark McCloskey's demanding the guns back from the city. They collected them? That's wild.
Well, of course, I'm sure they did, and probably never wanted to return them either.
Composite Frylock, don't disturb my friend. He's non-binary gender fluid. Question 3. I made an unfortunate discovery earlier today. As of 2022, medically assisted suicide is the 4th leading cause of death in Canada. What, right after caribou? Today, the procedure could have the 3rd or 2nd place given the trend. What happened? Oh, man. This is a whole can of worms. Once you give the state the kind of power that they have given the state in Canada, let's be real. When you give the state the power over health, which is what is Canadian healthcare if not telling the state, oh yeah, you get to be my doctor and you get to be the person who determines if I need a doctor, when I need to see a doctor. What you're really giving them is the power over life and death. Are you not? Well, that's a 50-50 proposition. Sometimes they're going to have the power over life, and other times they're going to have the power over death. This was inevitable. They're already talking about this in Great Britain right now, too. Of course, they're big fans of their NHS. They shouldn't be, but they are big fans of their National Health Service. Dude, it's a short walk from that to state euthanasia. I've never heard you talk on this subject, Hobo. How do you read the whole Canadian assisted suicide thing?
Well, they always say the government is always trying to spend as much money as possible, right? And then now all of a sudden they're like, oh, we need to save money, so we're just going to kill you to save money.
Yep.
When the hell does the government ever care about saving money?
No kidding.
Only when it comes to killing off their own population, apparently.
Not only that, but when does the government have money? The government doesn't have any money they didn't steal from you. That's
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it seems like these things typically roll out in like either the UK or Canada, this type of stuff, and then it kind of worms its way over to. I could see certain left-wing states implementing this stuff pretty soon. if not already.
Oh, dude, it's like a test market.
Doing something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Oregon or like California, I could see definitely doing something like that.
Yeah. Yes. Doc Holliday, dementia Joe shit his pants in Normandy. We'll definitely have to talk about Joe Biden pooping his britches. Actually, do you have that article? Hold on. Do I have it open? The Cope from the Daily Beast, bro. The Cope from the Daily... Do you have the Daily Beast article?
Oh, man. Yeah, I do.
Dude, give it to us. Give it to us.
All right.
Because this headline is the best part. I don't even care if he pooped his pants. This right here, this headline, this pure Comintern Cope. It's brilliant. Give it to me.
Yeah. And by the way, it should be noted that it's under the category. This article is listed under the category extremism. More extreme shitting your pants, apparently.
And if anyone's qualified to make a dispassionate apolitical appraisal, a non-extremist appraisal, it's the unironic communism appreciators over at Daily Beast. But anyway, continue.
Right-wingers claim Biden pooped himself at D-Day ceremony because everything's so dumb. And then it says, Sniff test.
By the way,
red letters.
that's the new version of the headline. The previous one is, new video proves Biden did not, in fact, poop himself at the D-Day celebrations. It's like,
They changed the headline?
They did, because
recently?
because social media was dunking on it so hard. In fact, if you look at the URL, look at dailybeast.com/ see it shows the original title.
Oh, yeah.
They got dunked
Joe
on.
Biden did not.
Dude, they got dunked on so hard on social media because it seemed like protesting too much, right? Like, it was just, seriously, what a bizarre thing to say. But yeah, sorry, keep going.
All right, so it's a sniff test. Influenced by the RNC's rapid response team, MAGA World ran wild with the claim that Biden defecated on stage ahead of his D-Day speech in Normandy. Can you believe this is an actual headline in 2024? Like, dude, we surpassed idiocracy, man. Like, a while back.
I can't believe we're even, like, talking about... Who knew the D stood for defecation? Every new day abounds with discovery, folks. Never think you're beyond learning new things. Keep going.
President Joe Biden delivered a forceful indeed, yes, forceful speech Thursday in France to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landing, warning that democracy is not guaranteed and the price of unchecked tyranny is the blood of the young and the brave.
Yes. Oh, blood of the young, certainly.
MAGA trolls reacted by accusing the president of pooping his pants.
Okay, we gotta at least look at the video. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, I think I found the video. Okay, let me see if I can get it in full screen. All right. Oh, it's only on... I hate when the audio's only on one side. Let me go ahead and see if I can display capture that. Now watch this pause. What is this?
Distinguished guests, please welcome the Honorable Lloyd J. Austin.
So, the idea here is he was getting ready to sit down. And I mean, I'll go with that, right? Like, I'll absolutely go with that. I don't think that's completely unreasonable. I don't know about you. Have you seen the video, by the way?
I did, and you do notice there's no chairs nearby as well.
Well, I see some chairs in the background, but I agree they're a little far away. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe this is more of a dementia moment. Maybe he thought in his Alzheimer's ravaged brain that the chair was closer than it actually was. Do you think maybe that could be it?
Well, yeah, either way it's not good. Either he crapped himself or he's trying to sit on an imaginary chair. Like...
It's better than Clint Eastwood arguing with an imaginary chair.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, keep going. We got to hear this hard-hitting journalism.
Wow. While many observers' attention was focused on the president's address honoring the last living veterans of the invasion of Normandy, the rapid response social media team of the Republican National Committee was instead preoccupied with Biden briefly crouching before taking a seat. In a 13-second clip posted to social media,
briefly crouching, bro. Have you ever waited that long to sit down in your life? Have you ever bent down that long before taking a seat in your entire existence?
No. And then he sort of stands up and then does it again, right? It's like...
I don't... I'll tell you exactly how I know this story is like almost as full of feces as Biden's pull-ups. If the president, you, if anyone at all, ripped a righteous wet fart in France, what Frenchman could even tell the difference? Like what? Like what'd they say? Oh, did it suddenly smell better in here? My goodness!
You discovered a new kind of cheese.
Yeah, it doesn't smell like rotten soft cheese and stale baguettes. My God, cigarette smoke and armpit hair. My goodness! Come on, people! Jesus Christ! Pepe, it smells incrementally less like cigarettes and sewage. I think the American Alzheimer's patient left a Gerard Depardieu in his diaper. Oh. But I don't get this at all. I don't get how this is even a story. You know what it is, a story? It's a story because of the reaction. It's a story because they had to change their headline. It's a story because of the damage control and the cope. No one cares. No one really cares. And this also is the problem with denying a bunch of objective facts, facts we know to be objectively true, like the state of the economy. Because when you make a factual statement, no one gives a hoover damn. It's like the boy who cried shart, basically, is what it is. They've been denying basic reality for so long. Why would we accept even a simple explanation, like he's crouching to take a seat? That's really the problem, ultimately. That's not the only person who crapped their pants, though. This is wild. Have you been paying attention to the Katie Hobbs stuff?
Not a whole lot with all the other stuff going on, lately, but...
A Democrat attorney general is actually investigating a Democrat asterisk governor now.
Yeah.
Because
investigating, right? Yeah, I don't know about that.
Because of some really borked financial stuff. I'll try and sum this up after, but I'll go through this article just a little bit. So Katie Hobbs, of course, is the wrongfully installed governor of the state of Arizona, and Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays is the Attorney General of Arizona. So both Democrats. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays' office, this is from MSN, by the way, will launch a criminal investigation following reporting by the Arizona Republic detailing political donations made by a state contractor with ties to Katie Hobbs. Now, that's interesting word use when you hear a little bit more about this. It's more than just ties. The investigation comes at the request of a Republican, of course, Senator T.J. Shope of Coolidge, who asked that, yes, we have a town called Coolidge, named after Calvin Coolidge, who asked the Democratic Attorney General to look into the potential pay-to-play scheme. In his request, Shope named specific crimes, including bribery, fraud, and contract law violations that he believed could be implicated. The criminal division of the Attorney General's office is statutorily authorized to investigate the allegations and offenses outlined in your letter, blah, blah, blah. This is the letter that he sent. But this is the interesting part. I'm going to go ahead and read this. The organization that's being investigated is called Sunshine Residential Homes. It's a housing firm that gives housing basically to CPS children taken from their parents because of abuse or neglect, and you can imagine there's got to be a connection here with illegal immigration, right? Because children are taken from illegal alien parents, in giant air quotes. In other words, human traffickers who hide behind children. We know all about that. We've talked about that a lot on the RazörForce Offensive. But so this is the company being investigated over a lot of things. Improper financial practices and explicit bribery. This is relevant because probably the foremost figure in all of Arizona politics that Sunshine Residential Homes has bribed, if indeed they are guilty of bribery, is Katie Hobbs. So I'll read from the last paragraph here because this is where it really kind of cuts to the meat. Sunshine Residential Homes operates about 30 group homes for children who've been taken from their parents and placed into state custody. It was the only provider to win a special rate increase from DCS, that's CPS in Arizona, during the Hobbs administration, though there were about a dozen requests, DCS records show. When DCS renewed contracts with group home providers this year, it awarded existing providers more compensation, but Sunshine Residential Homes got the highest daily pay. Why am I not surprised? Well, here's why. Sunshine Residential Homes also launched a political spending campaign, donating $400,000 in 2022 and 2023. Of that, $300,000 was donated to the Arizona Democratic Party in the course of 3 transactions that occurred before and after Hobbs' asterisk election, state campaign finance records show. The company also cut a $100,000 check to Hobbs' inauguration fund, records previously provided by the fund show. So $500 million between the Arizona Democratic Party and Katie Hobbs herself and her inauguration fund from this group that are now being investigated for financial fraud.
Oh, man.
But, she didn't forget to carry the one on a financial declaration form. So, of course, she's not facing 126 years in prison like Trump, right?
This actually isn't surprising at all for Arizona, because historically we've had all sorts of this type of stuff. This is just like good old fashioned, crime, corruption, right?
You know what it reminded me of, actually? Do you remember one of the big feathers in the cap of Janet Napolitano when she took office? That was the last time we had a Democrat governor in the state of Arizona, was Janet Napolitano. Do you remember what her the big thing she was always beating her moobs about having done as the governor?
No, I don't think so.
Overhauling CPS.
Oh.
Interesting. The last time a Democrat governor was here, they overhauled CPS. Now that there's a Democrat governor again, they're getting busted in a bribery scheme with, you guessed it, CPS. All of which is tied to children who may or may not be who may or may not be illegal aliens. Right? So this is just wild, dude. There's got to be a human trafficking component to this. There just has to be. Like that's what it stinks of to me. Again, this is speculation, please. I don't want to be subpoenaed over this opinion, but in Arizona, in a border state with so much trafficking activity, boy, I'd be surprised if it wasn't in some way linked to this. But either way, I guess the Democratic Party have gone from trafficking children to neglecting them. I don't know. That's pretty wild.
Sounds about right.
Speaking of Trump and all of that stuff, did you see his shortlist for VP?
Oh yeah, where is that? Let me see if I can find it.
I think I shot it over to you.
Let's see.
This is a rumored list, by the way. It's not like official or anything, but here's some of the names. Not all of them are terrible. One of them is exceptionally terrible. I could live with some of these. Did you want to read them off?
I found it. Damn it, my mom's calling me. Mom, stop calling me, damn it. Okay.
From the other room, is it? No.
Yeah, right, exactly. No. Okay, so here's the list.
The internet's going to have a field day with that one.
I know, I love it, right? So we got Dr. Ben Carson, Governor Doug Burnham, Senator J.D. Vance, Senator Marco Rubio, Senator Tim Scott, Representative Byron Donalds, Representative Elise Stefanik.
Oh, my.
Who do you want and why?
Oh, man. You know why Lil Marco is in there, but that doesn't make it any less misguided, right? They're trying to reach Latinos with a guy who can't reach the big boy shelf at Target, ironically. But that's why. That's about trying to lock in the Latinos, which I don't think they need to worry about. Donald Trump's been decimating with Latino voters, like especially in Florida. I don't see how choosing Marco Rubio, a Florida Latino *Latino guy, is really going to help you that much. I don't see why he would even be on this list, especially after backstabbing so hard. Jesus Christ. Has there been a single time he does the Paul Ryan thing? Every single time something bad happens to Trump, it's either Paul Ryan or Marco Rubio are on NBC, one of the alphabet networks, basically just saying, "But if we had only picked DeSantis," right?
Yeah.
That seems to be pretty much. What do you think of Ben Carson, dude?
Out of that list, I was thinking maybe Ben Carson would probably be my top choice. Although some of the other ones I don't know that much about because they're kind of newer to the political scene, right? I heard some good things about J.D. Vance. I don't know a whole lot about him, though.
Same here.
To be honest.
Thus far, he's been pretty good. I haven't heard horrendous things about him, and Trump has said some complimentary things, but then he said some complimentary things about Cocaine Mitch, too. So what are you going to do? Ben Carson, I think, is a killer pick. Particularly, consider this. If there's another attempted plandemic, right? Or if Fauci winds up in a Wu-Flu tribunal, how much stronger is your position then if you have Ben Carson, Dr. Ben Carson, on your team and in a position of prominence? That to me is ideal, personally.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Because people would always say, Trump doesn't know what the hell he's doing, with regard to COVID and everything.
Uh-huh.
Right. So, Carson would be a good pick.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if we can pick up where we left off on all this stuff. Composite Frylock, yo dog, I heard you like shadows, so I got the Shadow playing Raid Shadow Legends with Shadow the Hedgehog. B Dan 82. Hey Razor, can I get a shout out for the Center of Immigration Studies? Yes, you can, because I love the Center of Immigration Studies. Dude, you and I have been, since the days of our internet radio show, we used to go to the Center for Immigration Studies website.
Oh yes,
to talk.
I remember them.
They were.
And another good one.
They're great.
Another good one was Federation for American Immigration Reform too. By the way.
Yes, dude, bringing it back. Old school. The Copper Owl. We should call our AGs every day to arrest D's. I assume you mean D's nuts. Eniacs, Razor, what are your thoughts about the Dems denying Secret Service to convicted felons and how the calculus works with Hunter Biden's situation? I'm not sure what you mean by the Hunter Biden situation. The denying Secret Service thing, par for the course. Of course, it's kind of silly because Trump can afford his own security and will hire that security, right? He's already a celebrity with a ton of money. So he's probably the only guy who could still survive even if he had no Secret Service protection. He kind of has his own Secret Service, and honestly, they're probably better than our Secret Service. Anybody remember when they found that bag of cocaine around where Secret Service hangs out in the White House? I think Trump will be okay. I don't know. What about you? How do you read the denial of Secret Service protection to felons? Which again, as I pointed out earlier, Trump is not convicted of anything until sentencing. But
right, and wasn't that just something they were gonna do? Like, it hasn't actually passed, has it? The denying Secret Service protection.
It's just something they're trying. Yes.
Yeah. Well, they'll find a way, of course, to make it a double standard. Like, oh, well, we can deny it to Trump, but Hunter Biden can still get it. Yeah. So they always find some way to do this stupid crap.
Right. Luke Nukem movie review. Speaking of Christianity, thoughts on Christopher Hitchens? I like some of Christopher Hitchens' stuff. He appeared on Dennis Miller's show a few times. I liked him. I mean, I obviously disagree with him about religion, but I thought he was a good wit and a good writer and funny sometimes. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. Let's see here. Eric Heffelfinger. That is quite a Germanic last name. My mom was a teacher for 30 years. My father about 8. If they were alive, they would be on multiple government lists for vocally, possibly physically rejecting what's happening in schools. Yeah, my family members got out just in time. Although one of them's still in there, but not in a direct teaching capacity, which is probably what's saving them. They used to have their own classroom, but now they're kind of on the periphery working in other ways at the school. So they don't have to deal quite as directly with the propaganda that's now been like power injected directly into the curriculum. As if, let's be honest, we could both look back on we were both public educated, correct? Nathaniel, you were
Indeed.
never in, what's that?
Indeed, yes. Yeah. Public school.
Yeah, so I kind of get that. Like, I could go back through my education history and definitely see times where it's like, there was a narrative there. There was definitely pushing a message. And, look at Lincoln. I was lucky. I had a history teacher sophomore year, junior year, who was actually pretty based on Lincoln. But every other year, right, it was just this side of hero worship. You would have thought he was one of the seraphim, that he had descended from heaven to save us all from the Confederates. And that's just one example. Today, dude, if we were to walk into a high school history class, would we learn anything that didn't deal with the Civil War or slavery or World War II?
Probably not, but that's even what they were teaching back then, largely. Exactly. There was a lot of stuff they just ignored and we never heard about,
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's see here. Sean McDonald, here to support the offensive. We need to keep these degenerates out of our schools. This win is an amazing white pill. Godspeed. I assume he's talking about the win I mentioned earlier. Yeah, and that's a big school district out here in Phoenix. A big, big school district that happened at. I wonder who's, would you be at all surprised if some leftist pressure group wound up footing the bill for that? Because that cat girl's got to be connected to somebody. She didn't just decide to run of her own accord.
It's these leftist groups have unlimited money, man. Some big pressure group will. What is it? A few $100,000? That's nothing. That's pocket change for them.
Yeah. John Ski, New York Dem. Paula Collins, running against Rep. Stefanik, says there needs to be re-education camps for MAGA voters. Yeah, we call them public schools. Also saying maybe we shouldn't call these camps because it doesn't sound good. Yeah, we call them universities. It's fine. Power Fist, don't think you saw my chat from the Verdict stream asking about what Transformers comics and stories are the best. Have a collection, want to start. I don't like Transformers. I never got into Transformers, and I did actually answer this, but I answered it on the following Razor Fist Arcade. Like I said, if we don't get to your super chats on this stream, we will get to them on subsequent streams, because they remain in our super chat bank. But yeah, I'm not a big Transformers guy. Were you ever a Transformers guy growing up?
I had some of the toys, and I think I watched some of the cartoons. I was never, like, super into it, though, or anything, really.
Right. Okay, Michael Sgambati. Hi, Razor, just curious why Black Mask is your favorite Batman villain. Also, what do you think of Scarecrow, my personal favorite? I just like him because he's almost a tribute to the old school, like, Golden Age mob boss sort of villains, you know? He's almost a pulp villain in a Batman comic. And I always like those kind of... Probably my second favorite would be Scarface. I always like Scarface. So yeah, that's probably why I like Black Mask. Lucifer, more Rageaholic cinema and 80s, 90s films. Godspeed. The Engaged Few. Canadians didn't give the state the power of life and death. They didn't stop them when they decided to take the power, which I think is worse. And I agree. I mean, is there a functional difference? Is it functionally different if you don't push for it and you simply don't push back when they do? Let's be real.
Not really.
Right? It's kind of a Schrodinger's tyranny. Cocktails and consoles. The MAID program is the final solution, pun not intended, for the bad financial modeling of quote-unquote free healthcare. Don't think for a second a similar solution isn't coming for Social Security. Just talking about Canadian healthcare. I mean, I think that's an aspect of it. You know, you have to pay in something. I remember having a debate once and saying you have to pay one way or another for healthcare. Healthcare gets paid for. You either pay in your money or you pay in your time. And it's a telling indictment of the mismanagement of Canadian healthcare that they're paying in both, right? They get charged through the nose for that healthcare via taxes, I mean. And they have to be put on long wait lists for that healthcare, while the quality of the healthcare goes down. Because, of course, when any prominent Canadian celebrity or whatever has any kind of health issue, they wind up going where? They go to the United States. They go somewhere else. Look at the Jordan Peterson health drama. He wound up having to go to Russia, for Christ's sake. Bret the Hitman Hart, a Canadian icon. He got cancer or something, and he wound up going to the United States for treatment. It's, you know, it is what it is. The Engaged Few, it's happened twice in public, so we can assume it's happened other times, which begs the question, who's in charge of the cleanup? Well, Dr. Liz, maybe? I don't know. Alice Cooper herself. Dung is fun. Razor fasting for the winter. I don't know what that means. Overkill 161. Do you think the Dems and Rhinos would be in a better position now if Trump had his second term? Seems like 2020 was a monkey's paw of political actions. It was desperation. I mean, do you not get that vibe? To like putting together the fortification in 2020 was so slapdash, so hastily thrown together. In a lot of ways, I'm not even sure they knew exactly what they wanted to do, except they wanted to stop Trump from looking into things that he wasn't supposed to look into. You know, how do you read that whole situation and the subsequent behavior?
I mean, it seems like they just wanted to get rid of Trump so bad they didn't think it through long term. Because now, if he did win in 2020, well, which he did, but if he served his term in 2020,
theoretically and in Minecraft, you mean? Yes.
Yes, in Minecraft. Everything's in Minecraft that I say, by the way.
He's a big Minecraft fan, folks.
I'm mining and crafting all day long, man.
All day long.
But he would be almost out of office now. So I think they're regretting it because now they're like, oh, crap, we might get 4 more years of him. We'd be almost done with him now if we just let him serve out his term.
Yeah. Let's see. We actually got a few few others here. Oh, Nick W. donates on Streamlabs and says, "Hey, Razor, are you excited for The Thing remastered? The new game. Did you ever play The Thing back in the day when it was on PS2?
No, I don't believe I did.
I'm freaking stoked for it, because there's a meme that goes around that went around a long time. I think it's the Lisa Simpson chalkboard meme where it's like, only bad games that should be fixed should be remastered, right? It's something like that. And The Thing is not a bad game, I want to make that clear, but it had a lot of problems. Like the fuse boxes, and there was a lot of repetition and backtracking from what I remember. I remember having a blast with it, but it's The Thing too, right? Like we all love The Thing. So I'm stoked to see that it's getting a remaster personally. But yeah, Hobo unfortunately has not played it. I did. That was one of those titles back in the day that got like, it was I want to say it was a launch title, but it may not have been. It was in that kind of early days of PS2 when there wasn't a lot to play on the console yet. And so it was one of the ones that I actually got a hold of. D20 ASMR says, when I went to high school, the textbook still called it The War of Northern Aggression. Godspeed. Thank you for joining us from Appalachia. DRT is king. Says Trump would have to move out of Florida to pick any of the Floridians to make VP. He would lose the Electoral College points for Florida if both Trump and the VP are from Florida. No talks about it. Yeah, which is one of the reasons I don't think DeSantis is at all likely. There's people who are still throwing around DeSantis for vice president. What do you think about that?
DeSantis, I haven't heard a whole lot about him recently, to be honest.
He really, really has been licking his wounds since the primary.
Yeah, and you know, the more I think about it, though, the more I'm kind of getting on board the Tulsi bandwagon, because I recently watched that Michael Savage podcast that you were talking about, and I think she could do a lot to unify people, right? Especially women. A lot of women still have issues with Trump just because of his personality and whatnot.
I don't think she's not as bad a choice as Pence, which is odd to say, but she's not. I've always been really skeptical. Anybody who watches my channel knows I've been deeply skeptical of Tulsi Gabbard from day one. I've seen a lot of what she's done as kind of cynical political posturing. I read a lot of her actions, and maybe I was correct. Maybe she just had a change of heart later on. But I read a lot of her actions as, okay, the Democratic Party traditionally, politics is a rubber band, so it can only go so far left before the rubber band snaps in the opposite direction. The party has a soul-searching moment, right? Like the Republicans had to do after the 90s when they were getting their asses kicked by, Clinton and whatnot. Or like the Democrats had to do after the 80s when they just couldn't buy a victory under Reagan. She thought, logic will prevail. Eventually, the adults will re-enter the room, and the Democrat Party will have to become incrementally more sane. And so she was positioning herself, I believed, to be the person to inherit that. And I think people like Kyrsten Sinema and Doug, Manchin, they were looking to do that as well. It is telling that like all those people have left the room now. I think that probably was the calculus they were thinking. I'll be the only person who's semi-sane when the dust settles. And so I will get to inherit this party. In a sane world and a sane party, that probably happens. But we talked about this on a previous podcast, right? The Republican Party at least has a chance to learn from its mistakes and evolve into something that's a little more of the moment. The Democrat Party are kicking that can down the road and going out of their way not to learn the lesson. They screwed Bernie Sanders out of 2 primaries, at least 1, but probably 2. Because that's the organic movement that's building up in the Democratic Party, as loath as I am, to see it because it's socialistic. But they're trying not to learn that lesson. They view that as anathema and dangerous. They refuse to evolve. They're just now the party of unbridled power. And here's the problem with that. If they lose power, that power was all they had. They can't make arguments anymore. They don't have the organic support of even most of their own voters anymore. So when we were asked the question, it was either last podcast or the podcast before, which of the 2 parties is more in peril in terms of having a future at all? I said indefatigably, it is the Democrat Party. Republicans at least have a chance. They're going kicking and screaming. They're trying to screw Trump. But even if Trump goes to prison, even if Trump goes away, Republicans will have to deal with the fact that his movement isn't going away. And how do you and I both know that Trump's movement isn't going away? Because Trump didn't make the movement. That's why we got retards in the chat earlier who were like, bah, 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 ever since you got on the Trump train. It's like, there was no Trump train for me, right? I didn't even support him in the primaries. The Trump movement preceded Trump. Trump inherited it. It was the Tea Party before that, and before that it was whatever, the Buchanan Brigade. There's always been some kind of populist undercurrent in the Republican Party. The Republicans screwed that over by taking over the Tea Party and then taking it down from the inside with people like Paul Ryan in the early, 20-teens. Democrats are still doing that. Republicans now can't do it because Trump is just too big a name and people aren't backing away from him like they're supposed to. We're not following their program, and I can't urge you all enough not to continue not to do so. Let's see here. The engaged few. When in doubt, remember that Tulsi Gabbard's time in the military is spent in the public relations regimen. That is a good point. Gomer 081. Brett ain't crying about America now like in 97. Dung is fun. Razor fisting sounds like a kink. That's a shame. I think you should speak with your therapist about that one. Dung is fun. Again, Biden is the best present ever since sliced bread. Indeed. We should check out this. I was curious about this. Where did you see this Epic Times story about them being like apparently accused of money laundering by the feds?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I think Alex Jones was talking about it because, of course, he's under attack too, and so is everyone else, right? So I think he mentioned Epic Times as as another example.
Yeah.
So they're coming after everybody.
By the way, GR Token Spick on Rumble. Thank you for the 2 different super chats there. Matthew Hammond. Here's a good question. I wanted to talk about gaming before we get more into politics. Matthew Hammond, where do you see the future of gaming now that neither Microsoft nor Sony can make money on their online services because of weak console sales? Will both go to PC, leaving Nintendo as the only console? I think that's what a lot of people are speculating. You've been a PC gamer, God, even longer than I have. How do you see it shaking out, Hobo?
It's it'd be tough for me to see like PlayStation completely going away, or even the Xbox, right? But it seems like PC gaming is taking off actually quite a bit. I mean, for a while I remember, it seemed like PC gaming wasn't near as popular, but now I feel like it's surpassed console gaming in general.
Oh, dude, absolutely. And in revenue, I wouldn't be shocked to learn that Valve and the Steam service itself, makes more than it's got to be just a freaking ridiculous number compared to the other companies. But I mean, Switch is kind of the only game in town, really, on the console front. Am I wrong? I mean, even I own a Switch. I put it off for so long and finally got one. It was actually a Christmas gift from Terengel. Shout out to T Boogie. He got me a Switch, that beautiful bastard. But I own more games for my Switch than I ever had for my PS4. Almost as many games as I have for I have more games on my Switch than for Series X. I mean, with Series X, you get Game Pass and whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's a good deal. It's yet another console generation where Nintendo have identified a hole in the market that isn't being served, and they actually attempted to address that on some level, while the other companies just plumb ignored it. Or they got obsessed with graphics. And look, if graphics won the day, the Series X would dominate all of the other consoles. Of course, if graphics ruled the day, PC would dominate them all, but PC's dominating for different reasons, right? It's dominating for ease of use. It's dominating for all the popular multiplayer games that you can only play on PC. The simplicity of use on Steam is definitely a big point in its favor, although lack of property rights is a point against it. I don't know. It's just, look, I've talked about this ad nauseum. I used to do and I may do it this generation now that the other consoles are winding down. I used to do my console generation post-mortem videos, which I was very proud of, where I kind of broke down, okay, who cooked it up, who ate it, like who sucked and who blew in that console generation. This is going to be a fascinating console generation to dissect, is it not, dude?
Yeah, I think so. Do you actually see, like, the PlayStation being ever completely discontinued, though? Anytime soon?
It's weird because, like, PS5, there's no reason to buy a PS5. But people bought it. Not enough people. It was a financial failure for Sony. They came out and admitted that. But a lot of people bought the damn thing just because it had a PlayStation logo on it. And that's pretty crazy, right? Although, you know, the same is probably true of Xbox ultimately. So it's like, maybe? Look, Sony was making games on PC before they had a console. So either way, they're going to continue to exist. The most logical future I see is Microsoft move away from the Xbox brand and move back toward Microsoft Gaming, which in the late 90s was printing money for them. Their PC gaming division made a whole lot of cash. And then they decided they wanted a piece of the console market. All of that energy got pushed into the Xbox division. It worked for a while. It worked really well at the beginning of the 360 generation, but it hasn't been working so well ever since. You know, they'd be crazy not to go back to what was working last, don't you think?
Yeah, true. That is a good point.
I mean, you remember back in the day, Microsoft Gaming Zone?
Oh man, Microsoft Gaming Zone, yeah.
Dude, that was awesome. You could play Jedi Knight on there, Mech Warrior 4.
Holy cow.
Dude, Microsoft was great in late 90s, early 2000s PC gaming. I think a big mistake they made, personally, you can tell me if I'm wrong, is moving into the console space. I don't begrudge them. They got a pretty good guy, Seamus Blackley, to design the thing. He used to work at Looking Glass, whatever. I don't begrudge them that, but they should not have, in dipping their toe into the console space, they shouldn't have removed their other leg from the PC gaming space. They should have remained firmly rooted in PC gaming. Because if they hadn't done that, probably Steam never happens. Because that sort of position wound up being filled by Valve and Steam. And now you'll never take down Steam. There's just no way. Microsoft is not going to dethrone them. And they've tried. Like, they've got their little Microsoft gaming service. They've got their little Xbox app on your desktop computer. Nobody uses it. Nobody cares. Everyone's using Steam, right?
Pretty much.
Gomer081, here's a blast from the past. We all remember this. Remember when hacks would write, quote, PC gaming is dead? Remember all those articles, dude? IGN, GameSpot.
Yeah.
Who killed
that? That was
PC
around the time. That was like around the time, like, what, the PS3 came out and stuff.
Right.
Because the PS3 and the 360 were huge, and it felt for a while that, like, they were gonna totally surpass PC gaming, to me anyway.
Yep.
But it seems like it's kind of reversed again.
Absolutely. And what's the coolest part about it to me is that they have not only brought back PC gaming, they've brought back middle market gaming in the process. They've brought back smaller or moderately sized budgeted games like, you know, Kingdom Come Deliverance or Greedfall or, right? Bound by Flame. These kind of games that, like, traditionally, for a number of years there, from like 2004 to 2011, 12 or so, these games were not really being made, at least not in large numbers, and they weren't selling that much. Now you can release them on Steam, and they're actually doing really well. What's the company? Focus Home Interactive. They've had a number of, you know, middle market games actually wind up being kind of quiet little hits, and that was not happening in the early aughts to the early teens. Let's see here. Not George Floyd asks. I'll put this question directly to you because you and I have kind of flirted with this topic in the past. How high is the likelihood Trump will be JFK'd if he ends up winning in November?
God. Here we go again.
We honestly should devote a whole episode to this because I, of course, had to do a bunch of research into Abraham Lincoln's assassination for a couple of previous videos. So it'd be interesting to compare the circumstances in the country, politically, militarily, around the time of previous presidential unalivings as opposed to now. Because I'm not a hyperbole guy when it comes to stuff like this. I mean, look, I breathe drink, eat, sleep hyperbole. Hyperbole is the source of my power, but I'm not a Tim Pool guy. I'm not shouting the word Civil War every 15 minutes. I'm not like that, but I cannot deny some of the conditions are present for something like that. But now I'm answering the question I asked you. What do you think of that?
Dude, their derangement is like so off the charts that, of course, that's the number one thing we're all worried about, especially if he gets put in prison and, there could be some sort of Epstein type thing, or the big thing that I've heard people mention, which is absolutely a concern, would be like his food. That's like the Achilles heel, man, because especially let's say he gets put in prison and then he's being served food that he doesn't know like who prepared it or whatever, right?
Right.
I mean, there's lots of avenues, man, that are scary in Minecraft, of course.
Minecraft, of course. GR Token Spick. Jesus Christ. Says, do you think GTA 6 is going to go woke? I would be crushed if it wasn't offensive as hell. It'll be safe offensive, just like GTA 5 was. I thought GTA 5 was, I don't know if woke is the word, but they definitely smoothed a lot of the rough edges in GTA when GTA 5 came in. Did you ever play GTA 5?
I don't think I played 5. I know I did play 4.
Yeah.
And some of the older ones.
GTA 5 felt a little more corporate than 4 had, which 4 was already kind of arcing in that direction. But yeah, some of the edge of Grand Theft Auto just felt like it had been sort of shorn off there. Matthew Hammond says, and this is a good point, Tulsi changed her stance on pew-pews after Hawaii refused to give her a license to carry after threats from a stalker. Which is significant, by the way, because you would think Tulsi Gabbard would be loaded. Tulsi Gabbard can't even afford to buy a house in Hawaii. Not just because the market is super expensive, but because she's not, she's not exactly in with the in club in the Democratic Party. She shares a house with family members and stuff. So that's pretty significant. I can't say I blame her for that. After leaving Democrats, she's no longer forced to back all their beliefs. That kind of was the final tumbler that clicked into place for me for Tulsi. Being willing to give her a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt was her change in stance on guns. I don't mind if people change a stance. I think that's a sign of character, personally. I have changed stances over the years, and I plan to change more in the future. But that's one thing that definitely inured her from some of my prior criticisms. How do you feel about her stance on guns? Because she used to be kind of Bernie Broad, completely anti-gun.
Yeah, I remember that. It was like, in principle, I agree with a lot of what she says, but if she's going to be one of those people who's going to go around pushing red flag laws and all that, then, that's kind of a no-go for sure. But, I'm willing to think maybe she's changed. Especially people don't realize a lot of times they don't really even consider the gun issue until it affects them directly, right? Yeah. Like if she can't get a carry permit, then it's like, whoa, well, damn,
Yep. But speaking of personal protection, speaking of lawfare, speaking of Trump and the mistrial, the big legal news we have from WND, and of course, we've got to talk about this. I feel like it made big waves for one day, and then even the political right on social media kind of stopped talking about it. Steve Bannon. We have to talk about this, bro.
Yeah.
Read this story for us so we know all the particulars, because people know the basics. Steve Bannon had a stay of what was supposed to be a jail sentence for refusing to comply with a subpoena to appear before the laughable January 6th committee. And the judge decided out of the blue to rescind that because it was, quote, no longer valid or something like that. Read through this. I think a lot of people don't realize the legal wrangling and particulars. It's not completely hopeless. There's a good likelihood that he won't go, but still, this was pretty major news. Talk us through exactly how this happened.
Okay, this is from World.Daily. Judge orders Bannon to report for jail sentence starting July 1st. Persecuted by Democrats for refusing to testify to Nancy Pelosi's partisan J6 committee. A federal judge has ordered longtime Trump supporters...
We'll pretend that's why they want him in prison, but okay.
Yeah, right, exactly. Any excuse, man. Any excuse.
Right.
A federal judge has ordered longtime Trump advisor Steve Bannon to report to jail July 1st for a 4-month sentence for refusing to testify to ex-House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's partisan January 6th investigating committee. That now defunct group, partisan because only Pelosi was allowed to pick its members, orchestrated witnesses, and testimony to try and portray President Donald Trump as guilty of something for the rioting that happened amid a protest January 6, 2021 at the Capitol of Congress decision to adopt the Joe Biden election victory.
Yep.
Bannon was ordered by Democrats to testify about Trump, and he declined based on Trump's decision to invoke executive privilege over the information, a move that Democrats refused to accept.
Yeah.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
The court in his case claimed he could not show that Trump indeed invoked that privilege.
If you don't want to die from diabetes, pay attention to this
the
simple trick.
Orchestrated by Democrats from
Sorry
Joe
about
Biden
that,
down.
guys. Sorry about that, guys. A little bit. Freaking. I should have shut that. There was a website on in the background that had a diabetes medication ad suddenly started playing. I apologize.
my diabetes.
I mean, Bannon does look maybe pre-diabetic. I don't know. The eye bags and the corpulence. But anyways, continue. Sorry. I apologize, guys. Welcome to the RazörForce Offensive. Always the highest production values.
Absolutely. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Dude, can you imagine Bannon with a big walrus mustache advertising for Liberty Medical? Can you imagine? Anyway, continue.
Bannon noted that the lawfare orchestrated by Democrats from Joe Biden down against Trump and his associates will not succeed. They're not going to shut up Trump. They're not going to shut up Navarro. They're not going to shut up Bannon. And they're certainly not going to shut up MAGA. The order for Bannon came from U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols, who lifted his previous stay on Bannon's 4-month sentence. However, there is still time for Bannon to seek review from the full appellate court or the Supreme Court.
This is what I was talking about with it's not done and dusted. And because of the political nature, because of the fact, him being kind of semi-advisory, he can, I think, like Trump, he can request an expedited hearing directly in front of the Supreme Court. I think he can, but we'll see.
My stay of Mr. Bannon's obligation to self-surrender is revoked, the judge said. I do not believe that the original basis for my stay of Mr. Bannon's sentence exists anymore.
What does that mean?
It's the result... You're right, legal speak.
Well, they explain it here, or they think they explain it here.
Yeah. It's the result of a contempt citation from the then Democrat-controlled Congress. Bannon hosts the popular War Room podcast that attracts tens of thousands of fans.
Right.
Earlier, another Trump advisor, Peter Navarro, began serving his 4-month sentence for not responding the way the committee demanded. Bannon's lawyer, David Schoen, said outside the court that Bannon's previous lawyer informed him that when executive privilege has been revoked, you no longer have to comply with the subpoena.
Yep.
A report at RVM News said Democrats had demanded he provide documents and testify before the House committee, which was killed when Republicans took the majority in the House.
Why? Was he even there? Do you even remember if he attended January 6th? Because my memory of the event is he was too busy broadcasting at the time. He covered it and talked about it and encouraged people to protest peacefully on his show. I remember that, but I don't remember him actually attending. Am I crazy? Or was he not even there?
I don't recall any footage of him, Alex Jones. There's that footage of him standing out there with the bullhorn. But if he was within 1,000 miles, I mean, that counts as being at the Capitol, right?
Yeah, exactly. Somebody asked, by the way, what I'm holding in that photo. It's a crag! A Norwegian-American icon! I'll tell you exactly why he's being prosecuted. For saying things like this. I am going to play this right now, and you are all going to enjoy it. I think he was talking about the UK in this. About, kind of the, get along to go along kind of pseudo-conservatives in the UK at the time in this interview.
What the fuck did you do to stop it? Here's what he did to stop it. Nothing. You know why they did nothing? Because it's too fucking hard to do it. They're gutless. The reason this country in the West is in the shape it's in is because the conservatives who talked a good game about doing better didn't have the balls to sit there and fight and say no. This is why you have moms going to school boards to throw this pornography out. The reason we're winning in the United States, we're not depending upon a conservative elite who are gutless and feckless. We're depending upon mothers and fathers and school boards. We're depending upon working class people who are taking their extra time to go to precinct strategy because they said, hey, we're prepared to stand and fight and not let our country be taken. And that's what's important. Everything else is just conversation. You have to have the political will and the muscle to sit there and say, they can call me a racist, they can call me a nativist, they can call me a xenophobe, a sexist, a homophobe, all of it. When they get to that name calling, that means they've lost the argument and we're winning. You've got to draw that pus, you've got to lance the boil and draw that pus out of the system, and the conservatives aren't prepared to do that. They'll curl up in the fetal position because they're not going to be acceptable at the clubs. You have to get over, you have to understand we're unclubbable, and we're fucking proud of it, okay? And we're going to save our country, and eventually leaders will step up in England and come to the forefront and save the United Kingdom.
Wow! I can't imagine why they wanted him to appear and why they're currently trying to lock him up.
Based Bannon.
Can't imagine at all. Then, let's be real. That's the reason. The irony of this, of course, is so we have now established the reason why he's supposed to be jailed for a 4-month period. Boy, that's convenient right before the election. Is because he failed to appear before a congressional committee picked by exactly 1/2 of the political binary in this country. Stow that factoid away, guys. Because here's some footage of our very own Merrick Garland admitting to doing the same damn thing!
The Justice Department is a fundamental institution of our democracy. People depend on us to ensure that our investigations and our prosecutions are conducted according to the facts and the law and without political influence. We have gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure that the committees get responses to their legitimate requests. But this is not one. To the contrary, this is one that would harm our ability in the future to successfully pursue sensitive investigations. Now, there have been a series of unprecedented and frankly unfounded attacks on the Justice Department. This request, this effort to use contempt as a method of obtaining our sensitive law enforcement files is just the most recent. The effort to threaten to defund our investigations and the way in which there are contributions to an atmosphere that puts our agents and our prosecutors at risk.
Oh no! You can't have the agents at risk.
The only thing I can do is continue to do the right thing.
Only dogs can be at risk from federal agencies.
This building and its people.
Gentlemen, why don't we respond?
So there's Merrick Garland admitting that he picks and chooses what congressional committees he actually appears in front of. He writes a letter responding, in some cases, that he won't be appearing, and exactly why, because he finds the committee to be illegitimate. But Bannon does the exact same thing, and he has to report to prison for 4 months. Make it make sense, Tactical Hobo.
Yeah, well, you see, Bannon isn't a swamp creature like Mr. Garland here, who, did you see, like, it seems like he's like on the verge of breaking down and crying or something during part of this, too.
The unfounded attacks on our poor intelligence agencies, the poor intelligence agencies that followed John Schaefer around for months and months on end, years and years on end, before he was even prosecuted of anything. Indeed, years before January 6th even took place. Of course, we've extensively covered the John Schaefer sham and show trial, which I wish I could say the same about most political podcasts on the right. But now, folks, it's Bouncin' Baby Bannon, who's the latest prospective political prisoner of what can now only be referred to as the regime. Author of the most subtle political purges since Stalin, sans the stylish mustache. You'd be forgiven for inquiring what the unforgivable affront is. After all, we learned last week that your accountant failing to carry the one on a financial form is punishable by 120 years in prison. Even as Slow-Mo Joe's yet to give an accurate account of precisely where that 10% for the big guy was deposited precisely. Though after the D-Day festivities, I have a theory or 50. To recap, the January 6th committee, a body with all the political and legal legitimacy of People's Court, convened, staffed, and moderated in totality by Nancy Pelosi, easily the single most partisan hack that isn't currently writing for The Daily Show, subpoenaed Steve Bannon to appear in person, to proffer all that expert eyewitness testimony of an event he didn't even attend, at which point he told him to take a long walk off a short Baltimore bridge, and this, to the court of jowls, constitutes a crime punishable by pound me in the ass prison. Never mind that current U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland's been dodging subpoenas like Clinton at a draft board for years, and he remains perfectly unprosecuted. The linchpin of lawfare is that it only ever points in one direction, dickheads. And if you don't yet recognize that the solution for this is the destruction and dismantlement of the deep state, or worse, continue to labor under the hallucinatory delusion that the deep state can actually be harnessed by an imaginary monarcho-god king, cringe is insufficient to the task of describing your dipshittery. You'd see a tighter grip on reality watching Chris Chan interview Ted Bundy as a cartoon hedgehog. Please, God, don't you dare look that up. Refusing to appear before the January 6th committee isn't a crime. It's a scrapbook moment, a resume item, and going to prison for it should guarantee you a job. How illegitimate was the January 6th committee? Put it this way. Pelosi had sole authority over its membership roles. Folks, I wouldn't trust Pelosi with sole authority of the dinner rolls. And speaking of foodstuffs and perpetually soused slags, if I may, I'd like to momentarily redirect and proffer the following public service announcement. Dear alcohol, we had a deal. You were supposed to make us funnier, smarter, and more insightful at parties. But I've seen Nancy Pelosi tune wine coolers into the box, and bitch, we need to talk. Pelosi's roughly as insightful as an emo kid's live journal, about as funny as a school bus fire, and about as bright as Lizzo's areola. This woman's breath is 120 proof, and her blood type is a controlled substance. She should be Captain Charisma, so what the hell gives? We all see this for exactly what it is. One last-ditch attempt by the actively moldering Nancy Lugosi to secure her status legacy before Professor Van Trump Singh sends the stake into her sternum and she's replaced with a younger model of Menshevik. But really, what's AOC have between her tits that Pelosi doesn't? Apart from her belly button, I mean. I'm Razor Fist for Tactical Hobo and the RazörForce Offensive. God speed!
RazörForce.